On today's show, Kyrie Irving returns for the Dallas Mavericks. What does his return mean for the Mavs? And how did they lose that game against the Denver Nuggets so badly? What did we see from this team? We'll talk about that and more today. It's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
You are Locked On Mavs.
Great, Rusty.
Your daily Dallas Mavericks podcast.
No one's dying.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Amazing.
Your team every day.
Still can't even help.
And welcome to Locked On the Dallas Mavericks. Media member and NBA channel manager of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being an everyday or making Locked On Mavs your first listen today. Check the QR code and link in the description for different ways to follow the show and subscribe. Got all kinds of great things and ways that you can follow this team, even if they're as frustrating as they are right now. Joining me, as always, on a post-game, the post-game prodigy. He showed up for work today, at least. What you got for me, Slightly Biased?
I just got to keep chugging, folks.
Chug,
3-8 in their last 11. With
chug,
more to come.
chug, and chug away. We'll talk about the Mavs versus Nuggets. We'll talk about Derrick Lively leaving with an ankle injury because, of course, we'll talk about the what the non-stars showed so far in the last couple of games without Luka and Kyrie. But I want to start here slightly. Let's start with Kyrie. Kyrie Irving returned to form. He was listed as questionable yesterday, which was a little bit of a surprise to me. I thought he was going to be out a little bit longer. Were you surprised to see Kyrie back so quick?
Yeah, honestly, I thought they were going to do what we've kind of seen them do at times with – this is how they did with Maxey, where it's like, yeah, he's questionable, but he's not actually going to play. He's just going to go through the pregame stuff, and then we're going to work him back into playing. I was pretty surprised as to how quickly he returned, especially with that back-to-back tomorrow night. Now, I don't know what the deal is going to be with that, if he plays tomorrow night or not, but it was good to see him back out there. It wasn't his best game or anything like that, and you could tell that he was a little bit rusty and trying to get it going, but it was good to see him back out there. I mean, it's huge moving forward.
Yeah, I don't want to even bring up his stat line. It was
no, he wasn't good tonight. But
four of 18 from the field, missed all 3 of his threes, and 2 assists, 4 steals, minus 17 when he was in the game for the Mavs, only 11 points. But I think just the fact that Kyrie Irving returned, like you said, and a little earlier than some of us thought, is a big positive for the Mavericks. This team needed something else, and they need somebody else to really inject them with some offense. Tonight was not the game. We'll talk about why and give some of those reasons. But the fact that Kyrie is back honestly gives me a little more hope for this season because I thought he was going to be out a little bit longer. The Mavs would go through this stretch that's much longer than anyone would have hoped without Luka and Kyrie and would have dropped a bunch of more games. And I don't know. I'm feeling a little bit better now that Kyrie is back. Tonight is not a night where you look at this game and you go, man, I feel good about this Mavs team. But, the fact that Kyrie is back, I'm going to take as a win tonight.
Yeah, I mean, sure. It's good to have him back. I expected him to be back soon. All the people who thought that he'd come back the same time as Luka, I never thought that.
It's
but
just a back injury. A back injury, they're just so, sometimes you just don't know how long they're going to be out. You don't know if you could tweak it easily. I don't know. I'm really overcautious with back injuries, I guess.
Yeah, I know. But the whole reporting on it and the way they were talking, I never thought it was too serious. Just hopefully they're being, they know what they're doing. I'm assuming they do, and they're not rushing him back or anything like that, and they feel like he's comfortable. So, yeah, I mean, there wasn't, I'm just going to be honest, there was not a lot of positives here. This was one of the worst games of the season.
100%.
Full stop. Compounding with the fact that you really let one slip a few nights ago. We were talking you got to win the ones that are there for you to win. I don't know if we were saying this before during the show or after, where I was telling you, you're not getting that Nuggets team again a couple nights from now. You knew they were going to come out guns a-blazing after their horde starting that game on whatever day of the week that was. Sunday? I don't even know what day of the week it is. But
it's Tuesday.
Yeah, I mean, tough.
It was. And yeah, and Kyrie coming back is a positive I'm going to take from it, but then the rest of it, I might as well just get into it. Mavs lose this game to the Nuggets, and it's the worst game of the season that they've played so far. It's one of the ones where you look at it and you go, oh, there's just it didn't seem like there was any real fight. Didn't seem like there was any real cohesion on offense or on defense. Guys were just losing their man all over the place on head fakes, and it just felt like everybody on the Mavericks was playing at half speed in this game.
Yeah, I mean, that was I've given them a lot of props even during their losing stretch here recently, where I've said, you know what, they played hard. You can't fault them too much there. They just lack some talent somewhere now with all these guys out. I thought the first half, I don't know what that was. It felt like they were sleepwalking. Awful. It felt like the Nuggets were playing a different sport. I mean, the energy and speed that they were playing with flying around the court they felt like the Mavs are playing in quicksand. It's games like tonight where you do miss your athletes. You know, you miss just having guys who run up and down the floor and are playing at 110% and are giving you like lob dunks in transition whenever the team just needs something, some type of
Or just
spark.
like taking a charge or something.
Yeah, taking a charge, getting a chase down block, like something, right? Where the energy is just lacking severely. And yeah, I mean, this was just sleepwalking at the gates. Like you don't usually like going to effort because it's just kind of a very like elementary level analysis on things to say they didn't try, because usually they are trying. But that was a really out of character first half.
And it is kind of a good thing that we haven't seen this Mavs team play like this often. I was trying to think back, all right, what's the worst Mavs games this season? Christmas Day against the Timberwolves, they were down 28. That was their biggest deficit so far this season. And obviously Luka goes down. But then they were close in the fourth quarter. They fought back and made it a real game. Then there was the Cavs game where the Mavs were down 27 at one point in that game, and they lost the last three quarters of that one. But they were competitive in the first quarter. This was one where you're like, they're not even competitive most of the game. I mean, fourth quarter, they cut it to 14. Maybe we'll talk about some of those young guys a little later. But, I mean, that was it. And that was even like sort of a false comeback, it kind of felt like, because it wasn't really a lot of the rotation Mavs out there at that point.
Yeah, I mean, this game was over from opening tip-off, like just straight up. The Mavs
Felt like it.
Yeah, it really did. This is one of those depressing wire-to-wire games, which, to their credit, like you said, the Mavs haven't had many of these this year, even in losses. They always do have the fake comeback, and I know we always joke about the fake comeback, but I'd rather that than nothing, you know? I'd rather that than just rolling over, getting beat by 30 points, like we saw tonight pretty much. So, yeah, I don't know.
Are you putting blame on this loss on any one individual and or player?
No. This was such a bad loss. It's not any one individual's fault. Everybody needs to look in the mirror.
That's where I am too. You look at it, and let's just do the first half. The first half, the team they shot 16 of 46. It's like, okay, at a certain point, it's not like they were all the worst shots in the world that they were taking. The shots have just got to go in, and it wasn't the Mavs' night. And they NBA teams have games like this. The Bucks just got beat by the Nets the other day. You know, like it just happens where a random team will beat you. And if it's going to happen, it's probably going to happen against a really good team like the Nuggets, who can take advantage. And we're kind of embarrassed in their win the other night against the Mavs, where they almost got beat by a team with no stars. So they were going to come back with a vengeance and have the best player in the world and come in and really like take it to you. And man, Jamal Murray was just on one tonight too, which we have not seen very often this season anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that was insane. I mean, credit to Jamal Murray, and, you know, there's definitely some things you can say about the Mavs defensively tonight. But, man, some of the shots he was hitting were just insane. I mean, just the net wasn't even moving on some of his shots. He was just locked in. And they mentioned on the Mavs broadcast, I feel like they say this all the time, but they said, man, I was watching Jamal Murray warm up and it just looked a little different tonight. Like, to their credit, they said that like right when the game started. So he goes for 45 his season high. He only scored 30 points in a game one other time this season. He had 30 at halftime.
They left it ambiguous like that. Like, oh, he looks a little different today, in case it was good or bad. If he misses all the shots.
He looked like he had some pep in his step, is what they were saying.
Okay. All right, sure. They just leave it ambiguous.
Yeah, true. You never lose.
No, that's right. Yeah, I mean, he was getting them early. 45 points for him. And Porter Jr. had 13. Jokic had 10. Those are the next two leading scorers for the Nuggets. Sometimes it only takes one guy, and he outscored the Mavericks almost. The first quarter, he almost outscored the Mavericks. He had 15, and the Mavs had 15 with a minute 30 left in that first quarter. I mean, it's a start like that the Mavs do like with Luka or Kyrie sometimes, and we see them take that momentum through the rest of the game, and the Nuggets just did it to the Mavs this time.
Yeah, I think somebody mentioned in my chat that he made more field goals than the entire Mavs starting five. So
for the whole game?
Yeah.
He made 18.
18. Kyrie had 4. PJ had 2.
Well, the Mavs made 38 total field goals. Like
Najee started and he made 5, and then you had Derrick Lively with 2 and Klay with 3. So do some quick math there. I don't know if that number is still accurate, but yeah, just to recap, he was hitting some really tough shots. Like that was kind of a masterclass performance from Jamal Murray. And that's the Jamal Murray that if they get, this Nuggets team is absolutely contending for a championship this year.
Yeah, right.
And that's not the Jamal Murray they've gotten all season, really.
No, not at all, which is why the Nuggets are where they are, and now they're kind of back on the rise, it seems like, for the Nuggets. So I guess good for them.
Yeah. And Jokic, I mean, how many shots did Jokic even have in this game? 7 shots.
Yeah, it's just one of those games. He doesn't need it.
He barely had to do anything. They said on the broadcast when he got a triple-double, I was like, I didn't even realize he had 10 assists.
or 10
It wasn't like the
rebounds.
Jokic has the ball in his hands all the time and throwing crazy passes. He did have some crazy passes.
That's kind of it was one of the games for the Mavericks when like Jokic doesn't even have to try at all. It's like, okay, this was just gonna be a loss. You can't call it a schedule loss, but it was one of those where it's just from tip. The Mavs just didn't have it. They didn't come out with the right fire. They didn't come out with the right aggression. And I don't know. Coming up, let's talk about Jason Kidd. Let's talk about the Mavs. And when you have a game like this, what happens? What should have changed? What else do we see from this team in this game? We'll talk about all that and more coming up.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by Hungry Root. Every week I go grocery shopping and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna make this day, I'm gonna make this day, and then I just sometimes run out of recipes and run out of different things that I want to do. Gone are those days. Now everything changes because I discovered Hungry Root. Honestly, it's been a game changer. It's the easiest way to eat healthy without all the stress. With Hungry Root, it's like having a personal shopper and a nutritionist all in one. Gotta love that. Take care of my grocery shopping, recommending meals, groceries based on my taste and health goals, from anti-inflammatory to high protein, gluten-free options, all kinds of stuff like that. And the best part, all these meals can be made in 15 minutes or less. I'm talking quick, healthy meals that actually taste great. They take away the decision-making, which is something that I think right now we have decision fatigue, where just every single thing in life is a decision, especially if you're an adult. It's been a huge time saver and made healthy eating so much simpler. Go check out Hungry Root. For a limited time, get 40% off your first box and get a free item in every box for life. Just go to hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA. Use that code LockedOnNBA. That's hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA. Use the code LockedOnNBA for 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, what we call our listeners. I appreciate each and every one of you checking out the show and being with us. A bunch of you came up to me today. If you want to come say hi, I'm in section 123. For the most part, I had a listener come up and said he's been listening since the doldrums, the Dennis Smith Jr. draft and all that. It's a very long time. It's almost the entirety of Isaac and I's run on this show. He asked me this question. I'll pose it to you slightly. Assuming health, and let's just say you're just starting a team this season and you get one playoff run, are you starting with Jamal Murray or are you starting with Kyrie Irving?
Knowing what we know from this season,
just like going into this season, or just
Kyrie Irving.
Still taking Kyrie.
Yeah, I'm not. His 45-point game from Jamal Murray. Kyrie has been so much better this season. It's not even close.
Yeah, you can't let a game like this sway you. I'm still taking Kyrie too. That's what I told him. And Kyrie has hit one of the greatest shots in NBA history. Just went to the finals last year. Was great in a bunch of games going through that. I'm taking Kyrie too.
Yeah, that's not even up for debate for me. That feels reactionary.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. But I thought it was an interesting question. And I'm curious if anybody would think Jamal Murray. Comment on YouTube. Let us know on Twitter or Blue Sky or wherever else. All right, this game. The Mavs get out to a really tough start, but they lose Derrick Lively in the first quarter at the 8-minute mark. He comes down, not with a rebound, but he was going for a rebound, comes down on Jokic's foot, falls down, is down on the ground. Lively's going to be out for a little bit of time. We're holding our breath, waiting to see how serious it's going to be or anything like that. Do we want to try and reverse the Mavs curse again? Because the Mavs get a player back, and then they lose a really important player, and it just seems like this is happening over and over again this season.
It's just another one of these injuries for Lively, man. Like, falls on a guy's leg, tweaks his ankle, and that's who knows how long he's going to be out now. I don't know. This season has just been a nightmare, man. And he's in that category now with, obviously, with Luka and Kyrie, but also with PJ, where it's like the Mavs do not have a replacement for him on this team. They just don't. Like, I know you went out and you traded for a Daniel Gafford with the idea that you build this two-headed monster. You don't have a replacement for Dereck Lively on this roster. So if he's going to miss extended time now, it's going to be trouble once again for this team.
Oh, my gosh. The thing about Gafford, I've been thinking about him a lot, and I was specifically watching him in a lot of these games. It just feels like he's not the same guy. It just doesn't feel like he has the same tenacity. It doesn't feel like he has the same lift. And maybe it's because he's not playing with Luka, and maybe that's just the only difference that I'm seeing. But I don't know. It does feel like there's something different for Gafford, and it feels like he's playing worse than he played last year.
I mean, some of it's definitely, for sure, not having Luka out there, but I mean, it's also like, dude, he's getting outplayed by DeAndre Jordan in his minutes. I mean, Luka or no Luka, that can't happen under any circumstances. One game is fine, but the last two games he's been outplayed by DeAndre Jordan when they've shared the court together. It's 2025, not 2015. I mean, that can't happen, man. I know the rebounding it's becoming really worrisome, and also because too, last year kind of offset because he was great on the offensive board for the Mavs last year. And yeah, we knew he had his problems when it came to defensive rebounding, but it sort of felt like it offset because he would make that up by getting you an extra possession on the glass on the other end. But that's not there at all this season either. So I really don't know what it is. I'm just kind of like, I'm becoming concerned, truthfully, because I never really thought Gafford was like this great 16-game player necessarily in the playoffs or anything like that. But he was a great 82-game player for the Mavs last year and really important for them over the back half of that regular season. And you just haven't gotten that. And now if Lively's going to miss time, that's spooky.
He's who you're looking to first. If you look at with Lively maybe being out, the next couple of games for the Mavericks, you have at New Orleans back-to-back back-to-back, and that's a little bit of a travel there. We'll see if Kyrie plays or not, but you need Gafford to step up big in that game. They don't have the big center that's going to stop you. He should be able to play against that team. Then you play Oklahoma City. That's a completely different monster that we can talk about with Isaiah Hartenstein. Then they play Charlotte. So at least 2 of the next 3 games, Gafford should be able to have good games against them and play really well. And they need him to if Lively's going to be out for these games. They just really need him to step up in this moment right now.
New Orleans is a different basketball team now. I will just warn everybody about that.
In what way?
They're playing much better basketball lately than they have been. They've got guys back. I don't know, because they play tonight too, so I don't know what that's going to look like for them with their history and just the fact that they're already kind of just tanking in tank mode. But yeah, I mean, this will be a big stretch for Gafford. I thought a lot of what we've seen from Lively recently up until today with the unfortunate injury has been really encouraging. Just getting it on his own without just having to step up when the team has desperately needed guys to step up. And I think that'll help with his development. Hopefully this is a stretch where, all right, Gafford, we need you. We need you to play the best basketball of the season that you've played yet. And maybe he'll respond to that, and hopefully that'll get him going. That's what we have to hope for at this point.
From this game, Mavs Nuggets, do you just chalk it up to a bad game for the Mavs, that they just played terrible, or is there anything you're taking from this? I saw a lot of Jason Kidd talk online, and I'm not ready to go there with one game, but is there any thought to you that this is signs of something else from the Mavericks and not just the worst game of the season for them?
I don't want to get too reactionary here, because
that's why I asked the question.
I don't know. It feels, after every loss, especially lately, it feels really bad. The vibes just feel terrible. And then you look at the schedule, oh man, that Boston Oklahoma City stretch is coming up, which that feels like that would be miraculous if this team could pull out wins against those teams in their current form. But we were warning you guys that this wasn't going to be that fun of a stretch without Luka. It wasn't the hey, Luka's out for the next 2 games. Can you guys dig deep and figure out a way to get a win? It's different when it's a month plus, and then you've been without Kyrie, and now he's back and trying to integrate himself back into things. I don't know. It is what it is.
You just walked yourself all the way around the block on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I
don't want to be reactionary. It is what it is.
I feel like whatever you came into this game thinking, you're going to think again. If you were dooming,
this is a Rorschach test game for sure.
If you were feeling doom and gloomy about this season, then you're feeling even more doom and gloomy. If you were already it is what it is. I mean, what did you see in this game that would change your mind on that front?
To me, I looked at this game and it looked like a team that was oh, we have Kyrie back. Okay, he's gonna lead us and take over, and we don't have to do the same kind of things that we did in these games, because we saw this Mavs team play well against this Nuggets team, or at least play well enough to be close up until the very end of it. We saw them beat the Lakers, we saw them beat the Blazers, and we saw them step up in a way. And you have to play a certain way when you don't have Luka and Kyrie. Then they get Kyrie back, and it feels like they went back to, now we just have this star back, and now it felt like they kind of laid back in their chair a little bit to me. And
yeah,
I don't know if that's something that they'll take. I don't know if I want to take that fully and say this team will do that going forward. But I'm interested to see how they respond after this one for sure.
Yeah, and I guess that would be the main takeaways. This is the first time during the stretch where I've really felt man, they did not have it. They didn't bring it. They didn't, the energy was lacking. And if that becomes a trend, then yeah, we get into really spooky territory. But we'll have to see over the next couple of games.
But it's not a trend so far, right? This team has not been that team. We've had this Mavericks team in the past where it's a trend over and over again. You see, they lose to these teams they shouldn't, or they don't fight back or anything like that. They hang their head when they miss threes. They hang their head when they don't get calls from the refs. This team has not been that team. this year, right? Like if you are a longtime Mavs fan and you're like, oh, same old from the Mavericks. No, this team has not been that so far. But in a game like this, they did kind of show that thing. So you may be feeling some like PTSD from that.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. The PTSD is set in.
It's like, oh, we've just done this before.
And maybe the Charlotte game coming up.
I know. Oh my gosh, I still have that screenshot of me just like disheveled hair, frustrated, like of me just sitting in my office after they lost that game. Isaac made me do that show by myself. That was like torture. The fact that I did that show by myself.
I'm not gonna lie, the Mavs had some losses where I'm just like, I don't want to do Locked On at all.
You told me that. On the show. You come on, you're like, I don't want to do this. I'm like, I know, man. That's what makes it a job.
That's called professional growth, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right. 100%. Slightly biased, the professional podcaster.
Yes, sir.
And we don't have Reggie anymore. Reggie would at least come in and like always be the professional, the consummate professional.
Absolutely.
And we don't have him to lean on anymore. So
yeah, Reggie was the pros pro.
Shout out to Reggie down in Houston, by the way. That team is.
We miss him. We really do. I was thinking about him a couple days ago.
That Houston Rockets team, though. Did you see that Grizzlies game? They've got some stuff, man. I was dead wrong on that team.
He's a beast. Ben Thompson.
So fast, so quick, gets off the floor so quick. I'm interested to see how he plays in the playoffs because teams just play so far off of him. Yeah. So far, he's been able to make up with it with his athleticism and all that. But yeah.
They're a fun team, man.
They're fun. The Mavs were fun at one point.
They'll be fun again. The Texas 3-step's going to be alive and well. Like that's all I know.
That's true. I think the Lakers just lost all three to Houston, Mavs, and the Spurs. I think that just happened because they lost to the Spurs on Monday. Yeah. So
that's tough scenes.
That's tough for them for sure. Coming up, let's get into what we saw from some of these non-star players, these role players, while the Mavericks stars have been out. We'll get into that and more coming up.
I don't believe you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by Wayfair. After the holiday hustle, it's now kind of settled down. We're all kind of, all right, we're back to hanging out, and we're looking at our houses, we're looking at our places, even in your apartment, and you're going, man, could use a little spruce, could use a little something else. Wayfair is there to help you out, and if you're cleaning up or you want to find a new space, organize, or do something else, go check out and see what they have available for you at Wayfair. I've used Wayfair. I enjoy it because you can get stuff that's free. You get the free and hassle-free delivery, which is great. Free delivery and hassle-free delivery. Great. Gotta love that. And they have all kinds of discounts all the time. I'm always going there to see what kind of sales they have. They have all kinds of options on different things. So many things to choose from. Like, you go to IKEA and you think there's a whole bunch of things there. Go to Wayfair.com and just see what is available on Wayfair. Go check it out. Something for every style, every home, every color scheme that you have. Wayfair makes it easy to tackle your New Year's home goals. I got a bunch of those with endless inspiration for every space. So what's your style? What are you looking for? Try Wayfair. See what's available there. Give your home a refresh it needs with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
All right, Slightly. I'm going to pull the curtain back a little bit for the listeners and the people on YouTube. This part doesn't go on KFAA, so now we can say whatever the heck we want.
Nice. Get the bleep button ready.
That's right. All right, the non-stars for the Mavericks. What have we seen from them in the last 5-6 games that you're taking away from this stretch? Because now we've seen them without Luka or Kyrie. It's kind of an exposing moment. We're like, all right, we see some of these guys. What have you seen? I talked about a couple of things that I saw yesterday on the show, and I talked about like the two-man game with Lively and Klay Thompson. We talked about PJ posting up a little bit here and there. We talked about Grimes and Najee being able to be driving kick guys, and Hardy showing a little bit of playmaking here and there. What have you seen from some of these guys?
I've loved last two games have been really rough for like Quentin Grimes. I partially take blame for that because I made a video about him.
The curse
I was really gassing him up. And the last two games have been some of his worst ones with the Mavs. So that's partially my fault. I'll take the blame there. But PJ's last two games have been interesting because they've been bad games.
Scoring
5 points tonight, 2 of 10 from the field. This is coming off of what was also a pretty bad game against the Nuggets. Maybe it's just a weird matchup for him against Denver or, with Aaron Gordon back especially. I'm not entirely sure. But, my takeaway is these guys are all role players and on the contracts they're on for a reason. Like, if PJ was a consistent 20 and 10, he's making $20 to $30 million. If Spencer Dinwiddie was consistently giving us what he gave us over that 4 or 5 game stretch, he's not a vet minimum player. If Quentin Grimes was consistently giving us what he gave us during that 2-week stretch he had, he's already signed a $20-30 million contract extension. It wasn't just traded away for nothing, pretty much. Tim Hardaway Jr. and 3 second-round picks. Like, it's rough because they're all kind of starting to hit a bit of a funk, but that's to be expected when you're missing your stars for so long. And hopefully Kyrie back rejuvenates some of these guys. But I mean, they've all shown enough flashes where I'm like, all right, when Luka and Kyrie are back and they have the responsibility most of the time, like things are going to be all right.
Quick aside, I watched the Pistons versus the Knicks game the other night. Tim Hardaway Jr. made the extra pass 2 times in a row in the clutch to Malik Beasley for the win. It was like they needed both of those shots really badly, and Tim could have taken one, and he made the extra pass, and I was really proud of him. I just wanted
Tim has been good there, man. He has, and so has Malik Beasley. They've both been great there. So that wasn't like meant to poo-poo Tim Hardaway Jr., but it is saying like, we know who Tim was.
We do, yeah. And with this team, I mean, Quentin Grimes tonight, 10 points, hit 2 threes, 5 assists, 3 steals. It's like, all right, that's actually what you always would want from Quentin Grimes. If you could get that every single night from Quentin Grimes, that'd be great. It just didn't come in the right moments in this game. It came in the fourth quarter when the Mavs were making that, what we call the fake comeback there. But, yeah, I mean, I just think we've seen enough variety from all these role players to show that they can fit around 2 stars. They just haven't had those 2 stars, and Kyrie didn't play like it tonight for rust or whatever reason, but I think we just saw a lot of different things and elements from this team that show that they can be a good team. I'm standing on that. Like I'm not wavering after this stretch. I mean, they are 3-8. That's tough, but I'm not wavering from that the Mavericks can be a really, really good team, and that when everybody comes back, hopefully, and according to Jared Greenberg on TNT, it feels like they said Luka is going to come back. They're confident before the All-Star break, which isn't All-Star February 10th or something like that.
I think they said 14th through 16th or something like that. But
they're putting it on Valentine's Day. It is the 14th.
That would be very encouraging. I mean, I just assume, since just where that is on the calendar, to just be as cautious as possible and just have him rest that. So they must be feeling very good about his recovery, and that's great news, obviously. But yeah, I mean, look, I just feel like a lot of people are saying like, I thought they had great depth. Their depth's not great. I mean, any team without their 2 best guys is going to struggle. Like, that's just the truth. Even the Magic, who get brought up all the time, they it wasn't like they were routing teams in December. They were barely above 500. I think they had a bottom 10 net rating for like an entire month-long stretch than the Magic did. So I mean, it's really hard to win games in the NBA when you're missing your 2 best players.
And then, like, for the Magic, they played like that for a long stretch and got used to playing without those 2 guys, and you learn how to play basketball differently, too.
Don't forget how the Magic looked. I think the Mavs were either their first or second game after the Paolo injury, and they got obliterated. The Magic did, and they looked horrible. So, they, like you said, they've had time to play and discover themselves and discover an identity, and I mean, hopefully for the Mavs, they don't even really need to do that because Kyrie's back now, and hopefully Luka's back sooner rather than later. But yeah, I mean, I don't really know. This is just a tough stretch that
the Luka injury. Yeah, the Luka injury. If he does come back before the All-Star break, here are the games before. I've talked a lot about that. You know, he's going to get reevaluated on the 25th because they said it was going to be a month, 25th of January. Then they have that 5-game road stretch, and I was like, they're probably going to hold him out on that. Like, they'll probably just give him that extra time. Maybe he needs it anyway, and we'll see. But they have that 5-game road stretch. Then these are the 4 games before the All-Star break. Home for Houston. That's the one that I predicted he'll come back. I predicted that like a week ago that he'll come back for that Houston game. Feeling much better about it after their report today. Then home for Sacramento, home for Golden State, home for Miami. I feel him coming back for a couple of those games, and then all of a sudden All-Star break, and then you kind of turn it around from there, and then start the patented Dallas Mavericks charge to the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean that feels very plausible because that's as you mentioned, they got that 5-game road trip. That would be kind of surprising if he comes back then.
Yeah.
And then this little home stretch, you got 4 home games in a row before All-Star break. Yeah, I mean, that's Houston. Assuming you don't just bottom out here over the next month, like a few weeks, I guess, Houston could be an important game on the standings. Sacramento's been playing great. They could be kind of a big game. Golden State could turn around. They could be a big game standings-wise. So, yeah, I could see that. Definitely.
So, if that's the case, if he comes back around Houston game, that's 3 more weeks without Luka. 3 more weeks of winter, everyone, which I heard it's going to get colder again here in Dallas.
It is supposed to get cold. I mean, I'm just looking at this. You know, here's the thing. Looking at the schedule, you got to win. New Orleans is going to be more difficult tomorrow than people are expecting. I'm telling you that right now. But you got to beat Charlotte. You have to. You have to beat them. You have to beat the Wizards. You play the Pelicans twice before that home stretch we just talked about. You got to beat them at least once. Okay.
Yep.
Detroit's playing good basketball, so you can't pencil that in as a
They're
win
good,
anymore.
yeah.
But I'll just say at Detroit, at Philly, you got to win one of those.
The Philly one, I mean, they just...
Yeah, you got to win one of those because then you look at the schedule. You got Boston twice. No one's going to blame you if you lose that one. You got OKC twice.
Yikes.
No one's going to blame you if you lose those, like realistically speaking. You're playing at Cleveland. I mean, those are going to be really difficult games to win without Luka. So, but can you just win one of those? Like win the games you're supposed to, and then can you pull out one or two?
Can they do it? And with Kyrie back down, it's looking better that they can do something like that. Hopefully he gets back.
You won't play this bad again.
You're standing on that? You're feeling confident?
Yes. I hope
It's
so.
like I was gonna say, 4 of 18. It's hard for him to do that again.
Yeah, it's hard to get much worse than that.
Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs. Go check out Slightly Biased, great YouTube channel. All the stuff going around all the time, even if he's cursing Mavericks players like my guy Quentin Grimes. And check the QR code and the links in the description to find ways to follow the show. The red light on my face is driving me nuts. It just feels like it's demon time in a bad way. Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs. We've got all kinds of ways that you can follow the show. We're a daily show. We're 5 days a week. As every post game as well. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs. Peace out. Boom.
The red light. Nick's joining Red Note.